A day of anticipation. Martha Lawson stepped into the bustling department store, her heart dancing with excitement. The air was crisp and cool, a welcome respite from the sweltering summer heat outside. She paused for a moment, taking in the lively atmosphere, the buzz of conversations, the laughter of children, and the vibrant displays of merchandise lining the aisles. Today was a special day. She was on a mission to find the perfect gift for her younger sister's graduation. After years of hard work and dedication, her sister was about to step into a new chapter of her life, and Martha wanted to celebrate that milestone in style. "Okay, let's do this," Martha whispered to herself, determination fueling her steps as she walked further into the store. Her eyes darted around, scanning the colorful signs hanging from the ceiling until one caught her attention. Electronics. With purpose, she headed in that direction, envisioning the joy on her sister's face when she unveiled her gift. As she navigated through the aisles, Martha couldn't help but smile. The store was alive with activity. Families bustling by with carts piled high with clothes, couples strolling hand in hand as they explored kitchen appliances, and children darting between displays, their laughter echoing through the air. Martha felt a warm sense of belonging wash over her. After all the struggles she had faced as a young black woman in the tech industry, moments like these reminded her of how far she had come. When she reached the electronics section, her eyes widened at the sea of shiny screens and sleek devices. There, nestled in the back corner, was the treasure trove of gadgets that could make her sister's graduation unforgettable. Martha approached the tablet display, her excitement bubbling up as she picked up a slim silver model, turning it over in her hands. "This might be perfect," she murmured, already imagining her sister's face lighting up when she opened it. The thought of giving her sister a top-of-the-line tablet, a gift that reflected her love and pride, filled her with joy. It was a stark contrast to her own childhood, where gadgets were scarce and every purchase was weighed against necessity. Now, as a successful tech entrepreneur, she was determined to give her sister opportunities she never had. Martha's fingers danced across the screen as she explored the various features. The tablet boasted an impressive camera, a long battery life, and an array of educational apps that could aid her sister in her studies. As she compared different models, her mind drifted back to her own graduation day. She recalled the feeling of anticipation mixed with uncertainty, the excitement of stepping into the unknown. It was a bittersweet memory that only fueled her desire to ensure her sister's transition into adulthood was filled with positivity and support. "Oh, I wonder if she'd prefer the blue or the rose gold," Martha mused aloud, holding up two different models. In her moment of indecision, she failed to notice the glances some shoppers were casting in her direction. Martha was absorbed in her thoughts, imagining her sister using the tablet for school projects or video chatting with her from college. She felt a surge of gratitude for her journey, a journey that had transformed her from a shy girl with dreams into a confident woman who could now afford such luxuries. Just then, as Martha reached for another model on a high shelf, she felt a rough brush against her arm. Stumbling slightly, she caught herself and turned to see a middle-aged man in a crisp white store uniform glaring at her. His name was George Thompson, a longtime employee of the department store, known for his unwavering vigilance when it came to potential shoplifters. Martha offered a polite, "Oh, excuse me," but the man didn't respond. Instead, he continued to watch her, his brow furrowed in suspicion. George had seen many customers come and go over his years in the store, but Martha's presence ignited a spark of irritation in him. He couldn't shake off the feeling that she was out of place, a young woman casually dressed who couldn't possibly afford the high-end electronics she was so keenly inspecting. To him, she fit the profile of a thief, someone who might try to steal what she couldn't earn. His mind began to race with preconceptions, and he muttered under his breath, "Better keep an eye on this one." As Martha continued to browse, oblivious to the watchful gaze of George, she picked up a top-of-the-line laptop, her excitement palpable. Each device was a testament to her hard work, and she felt proud to be in a position to select such a meaningful gift. She was lost in her world of possibilities, unaware of the cloud of prejudice that loomed over her. George, meanwhile, had begun to follow her, maintaining what he thought was a discreet distance. He moved from aisle to aisle, pretending to straighten nearby displays while keeping a close watch on Martha. His growing suspicion only intensified as he observed her genuine interest in the gadgets, his mind clouded by years of dealing with difficult customers. Why would someone like her be interested in such expensive items? He thought, his lips pressed into a thin line. Each passing moment deepened his conviction that she was not just browsing, she was plotting. The more Martha examined the devices, the more convinced George became that she was up to no good. As Martha's excitement swelled, George's judgment became increasingly clouded by his biases. He failed to recognize the pride and joy radiating from her, mistaking her enthusiasm for something sinister. In his eyes, she was merely a potential threat, an unwanted presence in a space where he had worked diligently to maintain order. Suddenly, as Martha reached for a particularly expensive tablet, the tension in the air shifted. George, unable to contain his growing concern, decided he had seen enough. He approached her, his expression stern, ready to confront her. "Can I help you with something?" he asked, his voice laced with an edge of accusation. Martha looked up, surprised by his abruptness. "I'm just looking for a gift for my sister's graduation," she replied, her voice steady, trying to dispel the tension she sensed emanating from him. "I want to get her something special." But George was not convinced. "Special, huh?" he retorted, crossing his arms. "You seem to be looking at some of the more expensive items. Are you sure you can afford them?" His words hung in the air, a weight that pressed down on Martha. She felt the sting of his judgment, the unspoken assumption that because of her appearance, she was unworthy of the items she desired. For a moment, she was taken aback, caught off guard by the overtly racist undertone of his accusation. "Excuse me," Martha replied, her voice a mix of disbelief and anger. "I've worked hard to be where I am. I'm not here to steal anything. I'm simply shopping for a gift." George's expression didn't soften. Instead, he seemed to dig in deeper, convinced that his instincts were right. "I've seen your type before," he said, a sneer creeping into his voice. "Just trying to take advantage of a store. If you want to look, you better do it somewhere else." At that moment, a mix of emotions swelled within Martha: anger, confusion, and a deep-seated sadness for the stereotype she was facing. She had fought against the odds to build her career. Yet here she stood, reduced to a label that had nothing to do with her true character. "Sir," she said, trying to keep her composure, "you don't know me. You don't know anything about my life or my journey. I'm here for a special occasion, and I deserve to be treated with respect." But George's face remained impassive. His years of experience had taught him to trust his gut, and it told him that she was not to be trusted. He stood firm, convinced that he was the guardian of the store, the protector against potential theft. Martha's heart raced as she realized that this encounter could escalate into something far more significant than just a misunderstanding. She could feel the weight of the moment, the possibility that this confrontation might not only tarnish her shopping experience, but also ignite a firestorm of emotions that had been building in her since she entered the store. With determination stealing her resolve, Martha took a deep breath. This was more than just a misunderstanding. It was a challenge to her identity. Would she let this man's prejudices define her? Would she allow his unfounded accusations to tarnish the joy she felt in this moment? Or would she stand her ground and demand the respect she deserved? As the tension hung thick in the air, Martha knew that the next steps she took would either lead to a powerful transformation or deepen the bitter regret that accompanied ignorance and prejudice. The choice was not just about a shopping experience. It was about confronting a society that often judged people based on superficial attributes. "Let me show you who I really am," Martha thought, her heart pounding as she prepared to face George head-on, ready to turn this encounter into a moment of empowerment and awareness. And so, with a newfound sense of purpose, she resolved to challenge not just George's perceptions, but the systemic biases that lurked in the shadows, eager to undermine her journey. The path ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear. This day would not end in silence. A standoff in aisle 4. The atmosphere in the electronics section had transformed into a silent battlefield. Martha Lawson stood her ground, the sting of George Thompson's words echoing in her ears. With her heart racing, she felt a rush of adrenaline that ignited a fire within her, a fire fueled by years of battling stereotypes and pushing against the walls that society had built around her. "Let me show you who I really am," she thought fiercely, locking her gaze with George's. He stood rigid, arms crossed, still convinced that he was protecting the store from a potential thief. She could see the defiance in his eyes, a man unwilling to question his long-held beliefs. But Martha was ready to fight for her dignity. "Look," Martha began, her voice steady despite the emotions swirling inside her. "I understand that you have a job to do, but your assumptions about me are not only misguided but also deeply offensive. I'm a successful tech entrepreneur, and I've worked hard to build a life for myself and my family." She took a deep breath, letting her words sink in. "I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm here to celebrate my sister's achievements. She deserves the best." George's brows furrowed slightly, but he remained unyielding. "That's nice and all, but that doesn't change the fact that I've seen people like you take advantage of stores like this. I have to protect the merchandise." His voice was flat, lacking any semblance of empathy. Martha felt a rush of frustration. How many times had she encountered this type of dismissal? Time and time again, she had fought against the preconceptions that people held about her based solely on her skin color and gender. It wasn't just a personal attack, it was a reflection of a larger societal issue, one that needed to be confronted. "People like me," Martha echoed, incredulity lacing her tone. "What does that even mean? Because I'm a black woman shopping for an expensive gift, I'm automatically a thief in your eyes. You're making a judgment based on the color of my skin, and that's unacceptable." With each word, she felt the weight of her experiences spilling out, a story that she had carried within her for far too long. Martha had worked tirelessly to prove her worth in a predominantly white industry, and now she was determined to reclaim her narrative. "I deserve to be treated with respect, just like anyone else in this store. I'm not your stereotype. I'm a person." George's expression remained unchanged, but she could sense a flicker of uncertainty beneath his hardened exterior. The other shoppers in the electronics section began to take notice, their curious glances shifting from Martha to George. The tension hung heavily in the air, a collective awareness that something significant was happening. Martha knew that this moment had the potential to ripple out beyond their encounter. "Why don't you ask me some questions?" Martha proposed, her voice rising slightly. "Instead of jumping to conclusions, why not take a moment to learn about the person standing before you? I'll share my story, and you might be surprised at what you find." George hesitated, his brow furrowing as he contemplated her challenge. The confidence in Martha's voice was disarming, and he found himself questioning the narrative he had so rigidly clung to. "You think your story matters," he finally retorted, attempting to regain control of the situation. "Absolutely," Martha replied, her conviction unwavering. "Because my story isn't just mine. It's the story of many people who have faced discrimination, judgment, and bias. If we don't share our experiences, how can we ever hope to change perceptions?" Her words seemed to resonate in the air, creating a moment of connection amidst the tension. A few shoppers had stopped to watch, their expressions shifting from curiosity to concern. The scene was unfolding like a social experiment, and Martha felt a flicker of hope that perhaps she could use this confrontation to spark change. "I grew up in a neighborhood where resources were scarce, where my family struggled to make ends meet," Martha continued, her voice rising with passion. "Education was my ticket out, but I faced countless obstacles. I remember being told I wouldn't amount to anything simply because of where I came from. But I persevered. I started a tech company, and now I'm in a position to give my sister opportunities I never had." George shifted uncomfortably, and for the first time, he seemed to reconsider his stance. I didn't know, he muttered, his voice barely audible. Exactly, Martha said, seizing the moment. You didn't know because you never bothered to ask. You made assumptions based on my appearance without taking the time to see the person behind it. That's the problem. The onlookers had now formed a small circle around them, their attention rapt as Martha poured her heart out. I've faced prejudice throughout my career, but I refuse to let it define me. I'm here to buy a gift for my sister, not to steal. We all have stories that shape us. It's time we start listening to each other instead of jumping to conclusions. George's expression began to soften, the rigid lines of his face loosening as he listened. The walls he had built around himself were starting to crack, and the vulnerability of Martha's story began to penetrate his preconceived notions. But he still held onto a thread of defensiveness. Look, I'm just trying to do my job, he said, but the tone had shifted, reflecting a hint of doubt. I get that, Martha replied, her voice calm but firm. We all have jobs to do. But your job shouldn't come at the expense of someone's dignity. If you truly want to protect the store, how about you foster a space that encourages respect and understanding? That starts with you. For a moment, there was silence, a heavy pause where the weight of Martha's words hung in the air. George looked around, noticing the faces of other shoppers watching him. The embarrassment of being called out in front of an audience began to settle in. I'm sorry, he finally said, the words feeling foreign on his tongue. I shouldn't have jumped to conclusions. That was wrong of me. Martha felt a wave of relief wash over her. This was the moment she had hoped for, not just for herself, but for everyone who had faced similar prejudices. Thank you for saying that, she replied, her voice softening. It takes courage to acknowledge mistakes, especially in a world that often pushes us to stick to our biases. As George shifted his posture, his defensiveness began to fade. I guess I have a lot to learn, he admitted, looking down at the floor momentarily, as if searching for the right words. I've been in this job so long that I've seen the worst of people. I've let those experiences cloud my judgment. Martha nodded, understanding the struggle all too well. We've all been there, haven't we? It's easy to let our past experiences shape how we see the world. But it's also essential to challenge those narratives, especially when they lead us to unfair judgments. The crowd around them seemed to dissipate, realizing that the confrontation was transforming into a dialogue of understanding. George took a step closer, looking Martha in the eye for the first time. I'm sorry for how I treated you. I hope you can forgive me. I can forgive you, Martha replied, feeling the swell of compassion. But let's use this as a lesson moving forward. Let's challenge our assumptions and create a space where everyone feels valued, no matter their background. With those words, the tension that had once filled the air began to lift, replaced by an emerging understanding. George nodded, a hint of gratitude lighting up his features. You're right. I'll do better. Thank you for being patient with me. Martha felt a sense of victory wash over her. This moment was more than just about standing up for herself. It was about creating a ripple effect that could extend far beyond this encounter. She could sense that George was beginning to view her not as a stereotype, but as a person with depth, dreams, and experiences. As she turned back to the display, her excitement returned, mingling with the fresh energy of the interaction. Now about that gift for my sister, she said with a smile, her tone lighter. Do you think you could help me find the best tablet for her? George chuckled, the atmosphere now friendly. Absolutely. Let's get you the best one we have. After all, a graduation gift deserves to be special. As they moved through the electronics section together, Martha felt a renewed sense of hope. The journey of confronting prejudice could begin with a single conversation, and in that moment, she was reminded of the power of dialogue to bridge divides. With every step they took, Martha realized that not only was she advocating for herself, but she was also paving the way for others who would come after her. If they could spark a change in one person's heart, perhaps they could ignite a broader movement towards empathy and understanding. And so, with the promise of change in the air and a renewed sense of purpose, Martha continued her quest for the perfect graduation gift, determined to not only celebrate her sister's accomplishments, but to also honor her own journey and the lessons learned along the way. Connections and revelations. With a newfound sense of camaraderie, Martha and George navigated the electronics section together, the tension from earlier replaced by an unexpected warmth. Martha's heart swelled with pride as George, now genuinely interested, helped her compare different tablet models. As they moved from display to display, a deepening connection formed between them, one grounded in shared humanity and vulnerability. "So, what does your sister want to study?" George asked, picking up a sleek tablet that seemed to catch Martha's eye. The device shimmered under the bright lights, reflecting the hopes she had for her sister's future. "She wants to major in environmental science," Martha replied, her enthusiasm palpable. "She's always been passionate about sustainability and climate change. I've watched her grow from a little girl collecting recyclables to a young woman who dreams of making a difference in the world. This tablet will help her with research and projects. It's not just a gift. It's a tool for her to chase her dreams." George nodded, genuinely intrigued. "That's incredible. It's inspiring to see someone so young with such a clear vision. We need more people like her in the world." "How old is she?" "She just turned 18, Martha said, a hint of nostalgia creeping into her voice. "It feels like just yesterday I was helping her with her science fair projects. Now she's preparing for college, and I couldn't be prouder." As Martha spoke, George listened intently, his perspective shifting with each revelation. It was as if he had momentarily stepped into Martha's world, seeing through her eyes the dreams and aspirations that lay beneath the surface. For the first time, he felt the weight of his earlier assumptions pressing against the fragile walls of his preconceived notions. "So, do you ever worry about how she'll be treated in college?" George asked cautiously. "I mean, with everything that's going on in the world, it must be tough for her." Martha paused, considering his question. "I do worry about her, but I also have faith in her resilience. I've faced challenges throughout my life, and I'd learned that standing up for yourself and advocating for your rights is essential. I want my sister to have that strength too." George's eyes widened slightly as he absorbed her words. "You know, I never thought about it that way. I've always viewed people through a narrow lens, mostly due to my experiences. But hearing you speak about your sister makes me realize how much I've missed out on by not seeing individuals as more than just their backgrounds." "That's the thing," Martha replied, her voice growing passionate. "We're all shaped by our experiences, but those experiences don't define us. We have the power to shape our narratives, to break free from stereotypes. It's about pushing against the walls that people build around us." As they reached the display of high-end tablets, George turned to Martha with a thoughtful expression. "You've inspired me today. I've always viewed my job as just a means to an end, but I want to do more. I want to create a better environment for everyone who walks through these doors." Martha smiled, her heart warming at his sincerity. "You can start right here. Engage with customers, learn their stories, and create an atmosphere where everyone feels welcome. The change you want to see starts with you." George nodded, feeling a sense of determination swell within him. "You're right. I've been too quick to judge, and I don't want to be that person anymore. I want to embrace the diversity that comes through this store." As they settled on a stunning tablet that offered powerful features and an elegant design, George suddenly realized something else. He had never thought to ask about Martha's business. "So, what kind of tech company do you run?" he inquired, genuine curiosity shining in his eyes. "I founded a startup that focuses on developing educational apps for underprivileged children," Martha said, her pride evident. "It's something I'm incredibly passionate about. I believe that access to technology and quality education can change lives." "That sounds amazing," George replied, his voice laced with admiration. "How did you get started?" "It wasn't easy," Martha admitted, her expression shifting as she recalled the struggles she had faced. "I started by teaching coding workshops at local community centers. Many of the children I worked with didn't have computers at home, so I wanted to empower them with the skills they would need in the future. I eventually applied for grants and gathered a small team of like-minded individuals to create apps that cater to different learning styles. George was captivated, hanging on to every word. That's incredible. You're not just building a business. You're building a legacy. You're setting a precedent for future generations. Martha nodded, her passion igniting further. That's the goal. I want to show young people, especially those who look like me, that they can achieve anything they set their minds to. It's crucial for them to see role models in technology and education, people who look like them, and who have navigated similar paths. Do you have any advice for someone who might want to pursue a similar path? George asked, his voice earnest. Martha paused, reflecting on her journey. Absolutely. First, never let anyone tell you that you can't achieve your dreams. Second, seek out mentors and surround yourself with people who uplift and support you. And finally, be willing to learn from your mistakes. Failure is part of the journey, but it's how you respond to it that matters. George absorbed her words, realizing that they transcended the boundaries of his previous judgments. In this moment, he wasn't just a clerk in a department store. He was a witness to a story of resilience and strength. Martha's journey was a powerful reminder that everyone had a narrative worth hearing. As they finalized the purchase, Martha felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. She had entered the store to find a simple gift for her sister, but instead, she had engaged in a life-changing conversation. The opportunity to break down barriers and challenge stereotypes had unfolded before her, and she was determined to make the most of it. "Thank you for taking the time to listen to me, George," Martha said, her eyes shining with sincerity. "I appreciate your willingness to open your mind and heart." George smiled, a warmth radiating from him. "Thank you for being brave enough to share your story. It's made a real impact on me. I promise to do better." As they walked to the checkout, Martha felt a renewed sense of purpose. She had not only found the perfect gift for her sister, but had also taken a step towards creating a more inclusive world. George's transformation was just the beginning, and she felt an exhilarating sense of hope for the future. After making her purchase, Martha turned to George, who was now scanning the tablet and placing it in a sleek bag. "You know," she said, a playful smile on her face, "you might want to consider joining me for a coding workshop at the community center sometime. It could be a great way to give back and learn about the next generation of tech innovators." George chuckled, a look of surprise washing over his face. "Me? Teach coding? I don't know if I'm qualified for that." "Of course you are," Martha encouraged, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "You have the perfect perspective to share with the kids. They need to see someone who's willing to learn and grow, just like them. It would be a rewarding experience for you, I promise." As they reached the exit, George paused, looking out at the bustling parking lot filled with people from all walks of life. "You know what? I just might take you up on that offer," he said, a sense of determination in his voice. "I want to do more than just sell electronics. I want to create connections and inspire others." "Then let's make it happen," Martha replied, her heart soaring with excitement. "Together, we can challenge the status quo and encourage young people to reach for the stars." With that, they exchanged contact information, both aware that this encounter was only the beginning of a new chapter. As Martha stepped outside the department store, the sun shining down on her, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. The world was filled with possibilities, and she was determined to make a difference, not just for her sister, but for all those who shared similar dreams. As she drove home, the vibrant city whizzed by, each passing car a reminder of the diverse tapestry of lives interwoven with her own. Martha was filled with hope, knowing that every encounter, every conversation, had the power to create change. She envisioned her sister unboxing the tablet, eyes wide with joy and excitement, ready to embark on her own journey toward success. That night, as Martha sat at her dining table reflecting on the day's events, she picked up her phone and texted her sister, "I found the perfect gift for you. Can't wait to celebrate your graduation." Her sister's response came almost instantly. "Yay, can't wait to see it. Love you." Martha smiled, feeling the warmth of familial love fill her heart. She knew that this gift was more than just a tablet. It was a symbol of empowerment, resilience, and the belief that anything was possible with hard work and determination. And as she closed her eyes, Martha felt a sense of peace settle over her, knowing that her journey was intertwined with those around her. She had faced a moment of adversity, but it had transformed into an opportunity for connection, understanding, and growth. As she drifted off to sleep, Martha envisioned a brighter future for her sister, for herself, and for everyone who dared to dream big. The world was changing, one story at a time, and she was ready to be a part of it. Confronting shadows. The following weeks flew by in a whirlwind of preparation for her sister's graduation. Martha poured her energy into planning a memorable celebration, eager to honor the culmination of her sister's hard work and dedication. But amid the joyous anticipation lay a persistent reminder of the conversation with George, the revelation of their shared humanity, and the commitment to create meaningful connections. As Martha continued her work at the tech startup, she found herself reflecting on George's transformation. He had been a mirror to her experiences, illuminating the systemic biases that permeated their society. His willingness to confront his prejudices inspired her to take action. She resolved to host a community event aimed at bridging gaps between different cultures, showcasing stories of resilience, innovation, and the power of collaboration. The idea blossomed into a plan for a local festival, Voices of Change, celebrating diversity through technology, art, and storytelling. She envisioned booths featuring local tech entrepreneurs, interactive workshops for children, and storytelling sessions that highlighted the journeys of individuals from various backgrounds. The event would create a platform for voices that often went unheard, encouraging dialogue and understanding among community members. Excited by her vision, Martha reached out to local businesses, schools, and community organizations for support. To her delight, George stepped forward, offering to help organize the event. "I've seen how impactful storytelling can be," he said. "I'd love to connect with other local businesses and see how we can contribute to this festival." As they worked together, Martha and George established a friendship rooted in mutual respect and a desire for positive change. George used his connections to secure sponsorships and resources, while Martha coordinated the logistics, turning her vision into a reality. One afternoon, as they sat in a local cafe finalizing the festival's details, George's demeanor shifted. "You know, I've been thinking about something," he said, his voice low. "I've encountered so many people who've experienced discrimination, and I realized I can't just sit back anymore. I want to use my platform to speak out." Martha leaned forward, intrigued. "What do you have in mind?" "I want to share my story at the festival," George replied, determination flickering in his eyes. "I want to tell people how I've learned to recognize my biases and challenge them. I hope that by being open about my experiences, I can encourage others to reflect on their own perspectives." Martha's heart swelled with pride. "That's incredible, George. Your story will resonate with so many people. It's essential for others to see that transformation is possible, and it starts with recognizing our flaws." As the festival date approached, Martha felt an electric energy in the air. The community rallied behind their initiative, and she began receiving messages from individuals eager to share their experiences. Each email, each story, fueled her passion further. She could already envision the gathering, an event bursting with vibrant colors, diverse voices, and shared laughter. However, as the day drew near, Martha also felt a flicker of anxiety. She recalled her own experiences with racism, the moments that shaped her worldview. There had been times when she had been confronted with prejudice, and each instance left scars that ran deep. One particularly vivid memory flooded back to her: the day she had applied for her first job as a young college student. Dressed in her best suit, she had walked into the office, excited yet nervous, ready to prove herself. But as she approached the receptionist, she had been met with a look of disdain. "Are you here for an interview?" the woman had asked, her voice dripping with skepticism. "Yes, I am," Martha had replied, her voice steady despite the rising tide of doubt. "I have an appointment with Mr. Daniels." The receptionist raised an eyebrow, glancing at Martha's resume. "I'll let him know you're here." Moments later, Mr. Daniels emerged, his eyes widening with surprise. "Oh, you're Martha? I expected someone different." The words hung in the air, a heavy reminder of the biases people carried. Martha had fought through her disappointment and left the interview determined to prove that she was more than the color of her skin. That day had propelled her into action, driving her to pursue her dreams fiercely and passionately. Now, as she prepared for the festival, she couldn't shake the fear that the shadows of prejudice would creep back into the lives of those who attended. "Hey, Martha, you okay?" George's voice pulled her from her thoughts, concern etched on his face. She nodded, forcing a smile, just reflecting on the past. "Sometimes it feels overwhelming, you know." George leaned back, his expression softening. "I can only imagine. But look at the difference you're making. You're giving people a platform to share their stories. That's powerful." Martha took a deep breath, letting George's words sink in. "You're right. I just want everyone to feel heard and valued. If we can break down the walls that divide us, we can create a better future." As the festival day arrived, the energy in the air was palpable. The park was adorned with colorful banners, and the aroma of delicious food wafted through the air. Children laughed as they ran from booth to booth, exploring everything from coding workshops to art installations. Martha stood at the entrance, her heart swelling with pride as she welcomed attendees. She spotted George nearby, chatting animatedly with a group of local business owners, their laughter ringing out like music. Throughout the day, people poured in, sharing their stories, experiences, and dreams. Martha moved through the crowd, her heart full as she listened to each narrative. She had envisioned this moment, a tapestry woven from the diverse threads of their lives. Then came the time for George's speech. As he stood on the makeshift stage, he took a deep breath, scanning the crowd. Martha watched from the front, her heart racing in anticipation. "Hello, everyone," George began, his voice strong and steady. "I want to take a moment to talk about something important, recognizing our biases and learning from our mistakes." Martha's heart soared as George recounted his journey, his transformation from a man burdened by stereotypes to one committed to change. He spoke candidly about his initial judgments of Martha, the fears that had clouded his judgment, and the lessons he had learned along the way. "I realized that we all have shadows within us, prejudices that we may not even be aware of," he continued, his voice resonating with authenticity. "But the beauty of being human, it is that we have the power to confront those shadows and choose to rise above them. It starts with understanding that every individual has a story worth hearing." The crowd listened in rapt attention, nodding in agreement. Martha felt tears prick at her eyes, overwhelmed by the shared vulnerability in the air. George's bravery sparked something within the audience, igniting the willingness to reflect on their own experiences. After the speech, attendees began to engage in deeper conversations. People exchanged stories of discrimination, resilience, and the power of community. Martha moved from group to group, sharing her own experiences, encouraging others to voice their truths. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the park, Martha spotted a young girl sitting alone at one of the art booths. The girl was focused on a canvas, painting vibrant strokes of color, her expression lost in concentration. Martha approached her, kneeling beside her to get a better look at the artwork. "Wow, that's beautiful. What are you creating?" The girl looked up, surprise flickering in her eyes. "It's my dream," she said softly, gesturing to the canvas, which depicted a swirling galaxy of colors. "It's incredible," Martha replied, genuinely impressed. "What does it represent?" "It's where I want to go one day," the girl explained, her eyes sparkling with hope. I want to be an astronaut and explore space." Martha's heart soared. "That's amazing. You know, I believe you can achieve that dream. You have so much talent." The girl beamed, a shy smile breaking through. "Really? You think so?" "Absolutely. If you work hard and believe in yourself, there's no limit to what you can do." Martha encouraged, remembering her sister's aspirations and her own journey. As they spoke, other children began to gather, drawn to the lively exchange. Martha found herself surrounded by a group of aspiring young artists, each eager to share their dreams and ambitions. Their faces lit up with excitement, each sharing stories of their own aspirations. Martha felt a warmth spreading through her heart, recognizing the power of this moment. This was what the festival was all about, creating a space where dreams could flourish, where young voices could be nurtured and encouraged. After the crowd began to thin out, Martha stepped back to observe the park, now illuminated by twinkling fairy lights. She spotted George, animatedly discussing with a group of attendees, their faces reflecting the excitement of new connections and shared stories. As she made her way toward him, a sudden feeling of gratitude washed over her. The festival had become more than just an event. It was a catalyst for change, a testament to the strength of community, and a reminder of the resilience that resided in every individual. "George," Martha called out as she approached him, "I can't believe how incredible today has been. Thank you for all your hard work. This wouldn't have been possible without you." George turned, his face glowing with the warmth of success. "I couldn't have done it without you, Martha. You ignited this vision, and I just wanted to help it shine." As they stood together, surveying the remnants of the festival, Martha felt an unbreakable bond forming between them. They were two individuals from different backgrounds, now united by a common goal: to inspire change and foster understanding. The festival had opened doors to new perspectives, and Martha knew this was just the beginning. She envisioned a future where events like this could become a regular occurrence, a way to continuously celebrate diversity and encourage dialogue within the community. As she watched families packing up their belongings, smiles on their faces, Martha felt an overwhelming sense of hope. Perhaps together, they could dismantle the shadows of prejudice and build a brighter, more inclusive world. The journey ahead would not be easy. It would require courage, vulnerability, and a commitment to continuous growth. But as Martha looked around, she was reminded that change often began with a single conversation, a single encounter capable of igniting a spark that could light the way forward. Seeds of change. The festival had been a resounding success, but Martha knew that true change would require more than just one event. As the last remnants of Voices of Change faded into the night, she felt a burning desire to keep the momentum alive. The conversation sparked during the festival echoed in her mind, and she could almost feel the collective hope of those who had shared their stories. It was a powerful reminder that the seeds of change had been planted, but now it was time to nurture them and watch them grow. In the weeks following the festival, Martha began brainstorming ideas for ongoing initiatives that would encourage dialogue and foster a sense of community. She envisioned a series of workshops that would allow individuals to share their stories and experiences in a supportive environment. The workshops would aim to break down barriers, challenge stereotypes, and cultivate empathy among participants. Martha reached out to local community centers, schools, and businesses, seeking partnerships to help bring her vision to life. With George's continued support, they formed a small committee of volunteers, each passionate about creating a more inclusive community. As they gathered for their first planning meeting, Martha felt a renewed sense of purpose. "Thank you all for being here," she began, her voice steady with conviction. "The festival was just the beginning. I believe we can create a space where people feel safe to share their stories, and in doing so, we can build bridges of understanding between different cultures and backgrounds." A woman named Lisa, who had been deeply moved by the festival, spoke up. "I love that idea. Storytelling has such power. It can heal wounds and foster connections. We could invite people from different backgrounds to share their experiences, Maybe even have them paired with someone from a different community. Martha nodded enthusiastically. Yes, we can create a series of workshops that focus on various themes: overcoming adversity, cultural identity, and the impact of bias. Each session can culminate in a storytelling circle where everyone can share their narratives. George chimed in. I think we should also incorporate some fun elements, like art or music, to draw in more people. Making it interactive can help break down initial barriers. The room buzzed with excitement as they brainstormed logistics and potential speakers. Ideas flowed like a river, each suggestion building upon the last. Martha felt a sense of camaraderie with her team, each member committed to creating a safe space for dialogue and learning. As plans began to take shape, Martha found herself reflecting on her own journey and the importance of vulnerability. She had learned that sharing her experiences not only helped her heal, but also encouraged others to do the same. It was this willingness to be open that could create an environment ripe for understanding and growth. One evening, as Martha sat at her desk, she recalled her initial encounter with George at the department store. Their story was a reminder that anyone could evolve and confront their biases, and she realized she wanted to share her own narrative as part of the workshops. Drawing in a deep breath, she began to write, pouring her heart onto the page. She spoke of her childhood, the dreams that had propelled her forward, and the challenges she faced along the way. Her words became a powerful testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Weeks turned into months, and the workshops began to take form. The first session attracted a diverse group of attendees: students, parents, professionals, and community leaders. The atmosphere was electric, filled with nervous energy and anticipation. As participants took their seats in a large circle, Martha felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. "Welcome, everyone," she said, her voice steady yet warm. "Thank you for being here today. We're here to create a space where everyone's story matters, where we can learn from one another and grow together." The first theme of the workshop focused on cultural identity. Participants took turns sharing their experiences, revealing how their backgrounds shaped their perspectives. Some spoke of their struggles with assimilation, while others expressed pride in their heritage. Each story resonated with the others, weaving a rich tapestry of experiences that showcased the beauty of diversity. One participant, a young man named Amir, shared his journey as an immigrant. "When my family moved here, I felt lost. I struggled to fit in, to find my place in a new culture. But over time, I learned to embrace both my roots and the new experiences. It's taught me that identity isn't one-dimensional. It's a beautiful blend of who we are." Martha listened intently, nodding as Amir spoke. His words echoed her own experiences of navigating multiple identities. She felt a connection forming among the participants, a recognition of shared struggles and triumphs. After the storytelling session, they transitioned to an activity that encouraged reflection. Each participant was given a piece of paper and asked to write down a belief or bias they wanted to challenge. Martha could see the gears turning in their minds, the grappling with their own perceptions and assumptions. As they shared their reflections, Martha was amazed by the vulnerability in the room. Individuals openly discussed their fears, biases, and the stereotypes they had encountered. The air was charged with emotion, a palpable reminder that change was possible, but it required commitment and honesty. Through laughter and tears, connections deepened. Participants exchanged contact information, eager to continue the conversations beyond the workshop. Martha felt a surge of hope as she witnessed relationships forming. People who once may have passed each other on the street were now sharing their truths and building understanding. By the end of the workshop series, Martha's heart was full. She had witnessed transformation, not just within individuals but within the community. The workshops sparked deeper conversations, and people began to challenge their biases outside of the sessions. Social media buzzed with posts celebrating diversity, and community members began organizing events to foster inclusivity. As Martha stood at the center of it all, she felt a sense of responsibility. She wanted to expand the reach of their initiative, to inspire others to host similar workshops in different neighborhoods. With George's help, they created a toolkit for aspiring facilitators, detailing how to conduct workshops, promote dialogue, and foster a safe space for storytelling. Months later, Martha received an email from a community leader in a neighboring town, expressing interest in hosting a similar workshop. She felt a rush of excitement as she responded, eager to share their success story and support others in their efforts to promote understanding and empathy. One Saturday afternoon, Martha and George drove to the neighboring town to facilitate the workshop. As they set up the room, Martha's heart raced with anticipation. They had grown accustomed to leading these sessions, but each one felt like a new opportunity to inspire change. As participants began to arrive, Martha recognized familiar faces among them. Some had traveled from the city to support the initiative, bringing friends and family along. It was a testament to the impact of their work, a community united in the pursuit of understanding. The workshop began, and Martha could feel the same nervous energy in the air. Welcome, everyone. We're excited to be here and share this space with you. Today is about you, your stories, and the connections we can create together. As the workshop unfolded, it became clear that the stories shared were powerful. Participants opened up about their experiences with prejudice, resilience, and the importance of community. George facilitated a conversation on allyship, urging attendees to take active steps towards supporting marginalized voices. During a breakout session, a woman named Jasmine shared her journey as a single mother navigating systemic challenges. It's hard to get ahead when the odds feel stacked against you, she said, her voice breaking slightly. But I'm determined to create a better life for my children. I want them to see that they can achieve anything, despite the obstacles. Martha felt a lump form in her throat as Jasmine spoke. Her words struck a chord, echoing the struggles many faced in silence. It was a reminder that each story held the potential to create change, and it was essential to uplift those voices. As the workshop drew to a close, participants expressed gratitude for the space created. Many exchanged contact information, eager to stay connected and continue the conversations. Martha felt a surge of pride. She had witnessed a ripple effect of empathy and understanding spreading beyond their initial community. After the event, as they packed up their materials, George turned to Martha. "You know, I never imagined we'd have such an impact. It's incredible to see the change taking root in our communities." Martha smiled, her heart swelling with hope. "This is just the beginning, George. We have so much more to do. Let's keep planting those seeds of change, one story at a time." In the months that followed, the workshops blossomed, reaching neighboring towns and cities. Martha and George became known for their commitment to fostering dialogue, and their initiative began to gain traction. The ripple effect spread, inspiring others to join the movement toward inclusivity and understanding. As Martha reflected on the journey thus far, she recognized the power of community. It was a reminder that true change could only occur when individuals came together, united in their commitment to challenge bias and foster understanding. The road ahead would be long, but with each story shared, each connection made, they were building a brighter, more inclusive future. And as the seasons changed, so did the lives they touched. With each workshop, each conversation, they were cultivating a garden of hope, a testament to the strength of the human spirit and the beauty of diversity. Together, they were laying the foundation for a community where every voice mattered and every story had the power to create change. The legacy of change. As the months rolled on, Martha found herself immersed in the whirlwind of the workshops. They had become more than just sessions. They had transformed into gatherings of like-minded individuals eager to foster change. Martha realized that each workshop not only addressed personal narratives, but also instilled a sense of purpose among participants, an understanding that everyone had a role in the larger tapestry of societal change. With each new event, Martha saw a familiar pattern. People arriving with reservations, perhaps a hint of skepticism, but leaving with a spark of hope and connection. The emotional weight of their stories resonated deeply, creating bonds that transcended backgrounds and experiences. Each person who shared felt lighter, empowered by the knowledge that their voice mattered. One afternoon, Martha received a message from Lisa, the woman who had initially sparked the idea of storytelling circles during their first planning meeting. "Martha, I have an idea," she wrote. "What if we created a documentary featuring some of the stories shared in our workshops? It could reach a wider audience and inspire more people to engage in these conversations." Martha's heart raced at the thought. A documentary could serve as a powerful tool for advocacy and education. "This could be huge," she replied, excitement bubbling in her chest. "Let's meet to discuss how we can bring this vision to life." That weekend, they gathered in Martha's living room, their minds buzzing with possibilities. They envisioned a documentary that would highlight not just the stories of individuals, but also the impact of the workshops on the community as a whole. It would showcase the journey of transformation, from initial biases to moments of empathy and understanding. As they brainstormed potential participants, Martha felt a mixture of anticipation and anxiety. Would people be willing to share their stories on such a public platform? She knew that vulnerability was key to building connections, but putting those stories on film added another layer of exposure. "Let's start by reaching out to participants who have shown a strong willingness to share their experiences," Lisa suggested. "We can hold an information session about the documentary to gauge interest and discuss the importance of sharing their narratives." The following week, Martha sent out invitations to past workshop participants, eagerly awaiting their responses. The turnout at the information session was overwhelming. People from various backgrounds filled the community center room, their faces alight with curiosity and excitement. Martha stood at the front, heart pounding with enthusiasm, as she introduced the concept. "Thank you all for being here. We want to create a documentary that captures the essence of our journey together. The stories we've shared, the connections we've made, and the change we're inspiring in our community." She watched as participants exchanged glances, some nodding, others deep in thought. "This documentary will be a platform for your voices. It's an opportunity to share your truths and impact others who may be struggling with similar challenges. We want to show the world the power of storytelling and connection." As she spoke, several hands shot up, eager to share their thoughts. One participant, a young woman named Ava, voiced her enthusiasm. "I think this is a fantastic idea. Our stories matter, and they deserve to be heard. I'd love to be part of it." Encouraged by the positive response, Martha felt a sense of urgency to move forward. "Great. We'll set up interviews over the next few weeks. Each story will be unique, and together, they will illustrate the journey toward understanding and change." As the weeks progressed, Martha and Lisa began filming the documentary. They visited participants in their homes, capturing their stories in intimate settings that felt safe and personal. Each interview was a journey of vulnerability, revealing the struggles and triumphs that shaped each person's life. One of the most impactful interviews was with George, who opened up about his initial biases and the turning point that led him to confront his prejudices. "It's easy to dismiss someone based on their appearance," he admitted, looking directly into the camera. "But through Martha's workshops, I learned that everyone has a story worth listening to. I had to confront my own fears and misconceptions, and that wasn't easy." His honesty resonated deeply with viewers, serving as a reminder that transformation is a process. With each story, they built a compelling narrative that highlighted the importance of understanding, empathy, and growth. The documentary began to take shape, interspersing personal stories with footage from the workshops, capturing the laughter, tears, and breakthroughs that had defined their journey. As filming continued, Martha felt the weight of responsibility. She wanted to ensure that each story was told with respect and authenticity. She emphasized the importance of creating an environment where participants felt comfortable and valued. The documentary was not just about the individual. It was about the collective experience, the power of community, and the shared goal of dismantling bias. As the editing phase began, Martha and Lisa reviewed the footage, piecing together the stories into a cohesive narrative. The editing process was emotional, filled with laughter and tears as they relived the powerful moments captured on film. Each story held significance, and they were determined to honor the voices that had bravely shared their truths. Finally, the day arrived when they could unveil the documentary to the community. Martha organized a screening event at the local theater, inviting all those who had participated, as well as community leaders and supporters. The anticipation in the air was palpable as attendees gathered, filling the seats with a mix of excitement and apprehension. As the lights dimmed and the screen lit up, Martha's heart raced. The film began with an introduction, showcasing the vibrant faces of participants and their powerful stories. As the documentary unfolded, the audience was taken on an emotional journey, witnessing the struggles, resilience, and hope that defined the participants' experiences. When the film ended, a moment of silence enveloped the theater. Then, as if on cue, applause erupted, echoing off the walls. Tears glistened in the eyes of many attendees, and Martha felt a profound sense of gratitude. The film had sparked conversations, igniting discussions about bias, empathy, and the need for change. Martha stepped onto the stage, her heart full. Thank you all for being here tonight. This documentary is not just a collection of stories. It's a call to action. It's a reminder that we each have a role in creating a more inclusive world. Let's continue this conversation beyond tonight. Let's keep challenging our biases and supporting one another. As people began to mingle after the screening, conversations buzzed with energy. People exchanged thoughts about their own experiences, some finding common ground and others eager to learn from different perspectives. The documentary had done what Martha had hoped. It had catalyzed dialogue and fostered connections among individuals who might have otherwise remained strangers. In the following weeks, Martha noticed a shift within the community. More people began attending the workshops, eager to engage in meaningful conversations. The ripple effect of the documentary had inspired others to share their stories, creating a culture of openness and understanding. Local media outlets took notice of the documentary, highlighting its impact and the ongoing efforts of Martha and her team. Soon, invitations began pouring in for Martha to speak at various events, sharing the story behind the documentary and advocating for continued dialogue about bias and inclusivity. One particular invitation took Martha by surprise. A prominent university reached out, inviting her to present at their annual diversity conference. They wanted her to share insights from the workshops and discuss the documentary's impact on the community. It was a significant opportunity, one that could amplify their message on a larger platform. As Martha prepared for her presentation, she felt a mix of excitement and nerves. She was determined to convey the essence of the movement they had built together, the importance of storytelling, empathy, and the collective power of community. On the day of the conference, Martha stood before an audience filled with students, educators, and community leaders. She shared the journey of the workshops, the documentary, and the personal stories that had shaped her understanding of bias and connection. "I've learned that our stories are powerful tools for change," she said passionately. "When we share our experiences, we not only validate our own journeys, but also inspire others to reflect on their biases and challenge their perceptions. It's about creating a culture where every voice matters and where understanding becomes the foundation for our interactions." As she spoke, the audience listened intently, nodding in agreement. Martha felt a sense of purpose as she shared not only the triumphs, but also the ongoing challenges they faced. Change was not instantaneous. It required commitment, vulnerability, and the courage to engage in difficult conversations. After her presentation, attendees approached her, eager to continue the dialogue. Many expressed gratitude for the work she and her team had done, sharing their own stories and expressing a desire to initiate similar efforts in their communities. As Martha left the conference, her heart swelled with hope. She realized that the movement had grown beyond what she had initially envisioned. It was no longer just about her workshops or the documentary. It was a collective endeavor, a community committed to fostering understanding and challenging biases together. In the months that followed, Martha's impact continued to expand. She partnered with organizations focused on social justice and education, collaborating on initiatives aimed at addressing systemic inequalities. The workshops evolved into a comprehensive program that included mentorship, community engagement, and advocacy. As she stood at the forefront of this movement, Martha often reflected on her journey. The moments of doubt, the encounters with prejudice, and the profound connections formed along the way. She knew that while the road ahead would be challenging, they had laid the foundation for lasting change. One evening, as Martha sat in her living room, she received a message that brought tears to her eyes. It was from Jasmine, the single mother who had shared her struggles during the workshops. "Martha, I just wanted to say thank you. Because of the support from the workshops and the community, I've been able to secure a scholarship for my daughter. We're both so excited for this new chapter." Martha felt a rush of joy. This was the essence of their work, empowering individuals to realize their potential and create positive change in their lives. It was a reminder that the seeds they had planted were beginning to bear fruit. As she prepared for another workshop, Martha's heart brimmed with gratitude. She knew that change was an ongoing journey, one that required dedication and the courage to confront biases. But she also knew that the community they had built was resilient, a network of support, understanding, and love. In the end, Martha realized that change begins with a single story. It begins with the courage to speak out, to share experiences, and to connect with one another. As they continued to cultivate a culture of understanding, she felt hopeful for the future, a future where every voice mattered, and every story had the power to inspire change. Together, they were not just rewriting narratives, they were reshaping the very fabric of their community, one story at a time.